Today's episode is going to be a little bit dense. I don't have a ton of stuff to share, but I feel like I will go quite deep on a few of the topics that I have. Welcome everyone to Goodknits. I'm Sherry and this is my knitting channel here on YouTube, and you can also find me by Goodknits over on Instagram. For those that are brand new here, because I know there's quite a lot of you right now, I am a Canadian expat that is living in Amsterdam for the last 7 years with my husband Robert. I wanted to sit down and film this episode before we head off to Sicily for a couple weeks. My dad and stepmom are going to be in town tomorrow, May 22nd. We have a few days in Amsterdam together, so I'm going to have very little time to record anything or edit. And then Saturday we head out for 2 weeks of relaxation and exploring Italy, which I've never been to Sicily before, so I'm very excited to experience a new part of it and eat all the Italian food. I also have a ton of progress on my MELIDES dress, which has basically been my only project that I've been working on for the last couple weeks because my plan was to finish it for Sicily and I realized how down to the wire I was. So I've been powering through that. I haven't really had a chance to work on much of anything else, and you will see that in today's episode. So while I have quite a lot of whips on my plate, I don't really have any progress on any of them, so I will not be bringing them up today. So while today is a podcast episode, I am going to be doing things a little bit out of order. I'm first going to talk about my MELIDES dress because it kind of leads into the finished object that I have. And I'll explain more later. And then I have a lot of content around acquisitions and knitting plans, especially related to what I plan to bring to Sicily with me. So hopefully that's of interest for you guys today. Usually I don't have a lot of acquisitions. If you know me and you've been here for a while, you'll see that, I don't really have a really big yarn stash and I don't tend to collect yarn or buy a lot without projects in mind. So this is probably the biggest yarn haul that you will ever see from me, but I'm really excited to share what I have. Okay, so let's not waste any more time. I am actually on a time limit today for recording this, and so I really just want to get into the meat of things, and that would be my MELIDES dress by Goodknits. So I am knitting this in Knitting for Olive pure silk in the color Deep Petroleum. And I actually don't have this project to hold up for you today and do my usual show and tell because it is currently being wet blocked and it's sitting on the mat because I am down to the wire. I only have a few days left to get this done and I still have the finishing details. Well, I will insert B-roll once this thing is dry so that I can talk through it, but it just means I'm not going to be holding it up as I usually would. So the main thing I want to say about this project is I have definitely realized that knitting monogamy is not for me. As I've been having to focus on this dress and having this time pressure, all I've wanted to do is work on anything else. So I kind of set this arbitrary deadline for myself, months ago at the start of the year saying I'm going to knit a dress for Sicily. But I had originally intended that I was going to cast it on in, I think, February, and I would have many, many months to work on it. I then ended up casting it on more than a month late. I spent a ton of time gauge swatching, and I think by the time I really kicked this dress off, it was early April. So I have essentially had to knit this whole thing in less than 2 months. And at a certain point, I kind of decided, okay, there's no chance that I'm going to have this dress. I'm just going to give it up. But then when I saw where I was at by the end of April, I decided to carry on and really push to get this done. And especially now that I have some time off work, I figured, okay, it's not going to be any issue to complete this dress. But that would be wrong. Definitely knitting a 120 centimeter dress in fingering weight yarn on 3.25 millimeter needles is no easy feat, and especially when it's knit flat and you have a lot of purling to do, which at least for me slows me down. I am taking forever on this thing. So I had calculated a couple weeks ago that if I had any hope of completing this dress, I would need to complete at least 22 rows per day so that I could get it done at a reasonable point where I could then block it and do all the finishing details. So there was many days in Vilnius where I did not stick to that. I think I did almost no knitting for most of my time there. So then it meant on the plane ride there and the plane ride back, I really had to buckle down and knit as much as I humanly could. So I did manage to complete quite a lot on the travel days. And then I've literally just been sitting in a chair knitting nonstop since we got back last week. So it's also, for me, a reminder, I don't ever want to put a deadline on my knitting. Again, it's also reminding me why I don't typically do test knits. I think for some people, having that pressure is really helpful and motivating for them. For me, it's just sucking all the fun out of knitting. And it's now this piece where I'm like, oh, I have to work on my MELIDES dress and I don't want to work on it. I want to work on something else. I want to just do basic stockinette in the round. Or work on my Brady loop cardigan, which I'm also dying to have in my wardrobe. So I think after this, I am not going to be doing any more deadlines for myself for a very long time and just try to bring some of the joy back into my knitting. I know this piece is going to be worth it, but at the moment, yeah, it's more stressful than enjoyable. I believe in the last podcast where I was at with the dress was I had just joined to do the skirt. So I think I was somewhere between the high hip to the hip. And I think I had around 100 centimeters left on the skirt. So I have now completely finished the body of the dress. I did the finishing details of the linen stitch at the bottom, which I kind of messed up. I dropped some stitches, had no idea how to fix linen stitch, so it doesn't look 100% perfect, but that's okay. For the most part, the skirt went without incident, other than when I dropped all those stitches before the last episode and had to put in the lifeline. I did end up adding a lifeline roughly every 40 centimeters as I went, so that if anything else went wrong, I could easily just pull back to the lifeline and start over. Thankfully, nothing ever happened again. Everything was smooth, didn't drop any stitches, didn't have any issues. So I just carried on, did my increases roughly every 20 rounds, and it was smooth sailing. So the dress itself is done. And then on the weekend, I think Friday, I started with the finishing I-cord details. So I decided to do the armbands first because I figured they'd go faster and also give me a chance to practice the tension of my I-cord, because the pattern called for, I think, 2.5 millimeter needles, which would have been 0.5 down from the 3 millimeters the pattern calls for. So since I knit on 3.25, I decided to knit my I-cord on 2.75 millimeters, so I still went down the half size. And I did the pickup rate at exactly as the pattern specified, which I believe was 3 for every 4 stitches. And I did manage to have really good tension on the I-cord. It fits really well. Thankfully, I didn't have to rip back at all. And the second armband also went really smoothly. So that worked well for me. Before I did the armbands, I did also have to shorten the sleeves, or the I guess it would be the armband itself. So if you'll remember, I ended up adding, I think, 3 centimeters to the front and back sides, because when I first tried it on before the skirt was added, it was definitely not fitting right. So I added all that length, and then I grafted the armbands together so that I didn't have all these try-on tubes anymore. And then as the dress started to get heavier and heavier as I was working it, when I would try it on, I saw that it was just sitting way too low on me. So I ended up taking roughly 2 centimeters out of both sides, and that was roughly 12 stitches, which was pretty close to what I ended up adding in. So maybe that is a lesson for you guys. If you're also working on this dress, probably don't add the extra length until you finish the skirt, and then really see how much, because it does weigh itself down a lot and it's probably going to stretch more than you expect it to. So I essentially went back, removed all the stitches I'd added, regrafted it together, and then did the armbands from there. And I was a little bit worried that maybe I took away too much length from the straps, but it does seem to be fitting well, and I know the dress will continue to stretch as I wear it. So I think it's gonna be okay. So Friday, I managed to finish the armbands of both sides. Then Saturday, I did the pickup of the right button band, which I think it took me roughly 45 minutes to pick up all the stitches and do the wrong side row working back. And then did the 3 stitch I-cord bind off, worked up around the neck Sunday. And then Monday, so yesterday, I did the left side of the button band and finished that off. So it took me roughly 3 full days to do the entire I-cords between everything. And that was not with like super dedicated knitting. So I definitely had breaks during the days, and yeah, it's more of a tedious task than complicated. Had no issues with my tension. I really like that, unlike with the cardi jumper where you do your I-cord, and then I think there was one point where you had like a weird kind of graph together that for me I found a little bit noticeable. In this case, it ended up being a continuous I-cord. So you go up one side, then you end up continuing the I-cord when you pick up stitches for the back, and then you continue the I-cord when you go down the side. So it looks really, really nice and clean and polished all the way around. So I really love how that looks. And then I was like, yay, I finished the I-cord. I'm so, so close to the end here. I went and I picked out my buttons for the dress, which I will share with you. I went button shopping on Sunday. I managed to get this button. It was actually really, really hard to find enough buttons at 9mm that I could just buy in store. So there was a lot of really, really nice buttons in the shop, but most of the ones that I was drawn to didn't have nearly enough quantity. So I ended up with only, I think, 3 options that I could actually select from. One was a blue that was similar to the material itself, but it didn't really offer enough contrast. So then, yeah, I ended up going with this one, which is sort of a creamy beige with a slight gray accent to it. And I think it's gonna look really, really nice. It's 9mm, it's as the pattern calls for, and I bought 27 just to be on the safe side, so I have more than enough. I'm not sure exactly how many I'm gonna need because I haven't measured that yet, but yeah, this way I am safe. So I bought the button Sunday. I was like, great, I can definitely now just like work on reinforcing the button band like the pattern calls for. I assumed it was just a single crochet chain up the right and left sides, and then you replace the buttons. And then yesterday I sat down and watched all the videos for it and realized it's actually 3 steps on each side. So you do an inner crochet chain, an outer crochet chain, and then you have to do like a thread that you weave into the inner crochet chain to like properly reinforce it, and then you add all the buttons. So I messaged Ines yesterday. I was like, okay, for the 3rd step of like reinforcing where you actually add the thread, how important is that? Do I actually need to do it? And she was like, oh, I know you don't want to hear this, but yes, like otherwise your dress will probably pop open and the buttons won't stay. So it's so funny because in the pattern, it literally says at that section, like, okay, I know you're going to be tempted to skip this step because you have worked so hard and you just want it to be over. And that's so true. I want to skip this step so bad. I want this dress to be done. All the finishing details are like probably the hardest part, not from a skills perspective, but just like you've already done all this knitting and you are just ready to wear this thing, and it's just one more step. So this is the last step, but I really need the dress to dry. I decided it was going to work better with my schedule to wet block the dress and then add the buttons and the crochet chains, because otherwise if I added that first, like I wouldn't have time to really work on it till Wednesday afternoon, and then I would still have to block it for Saturday. So I'm pretty much busy all day today. I'm going to be out. I'm not going to get to work on this anyway. And I just need to figure out how I'm going to work on it when my family is here, because I don't want to be the rude person that's like, okay, I need to go knit and like go entertain yourselves. But yeah, I might just have to do that. And I have absolutely no idea how long this crochet chain is going to take. But I mean, it's a very, very long piece of fabric at this point. So it's probably going to take quite a while to actually do that crochet chain. One thing to also note with the yarn for this is like the pure silk, I think it's 3-ply. It does split a lot when you're working with it. So I didn't find it too bad while I was just knitting. But the second I went to do the I-cord, where you're constantly like having to pass stitches back onto the other needle, oh, the yarn split so much, and I was constantly having to go back and like try to pick up little loose threads so that they didn't look out of place, and that just wasn't the most pleasant experience. So just something to be mindful with the pure silk in general is it does kind of split a lot as you're working with it. Do be careful about that. It's going to make a beautiful fabric for the dress, so I would do it again in a heartbeat, and I'll continue to work with this yarn. But it just is a little bit annoying to work with. With this dress, I've also loved just seeing how invested the entire like knitting community seems to be. Every time I post on Instagram about my progress, it is like so many comments and likes and like messages that I get about this thing, which I just absolutely love to see. I feel like everybody's really rallying behind me, which is also keeping me really motivated, because I don't want to let you all down. I really want to have this dress for Sicily, for you, for me. So yes, thank you for the encouragement. It means a lot. I don't think I would honestly be getting it done if it weren't for that. So in order to actually finish this thing up too, today I need to go pick up a 3.5mm needle crochet hook. I'm hoping that a store that's a little bit close by will have it. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to go into the center to stop by Stephen and Penelope. But yeah, if I want to work on that tomorrow, I definitely need to get the crochet chain or crochet hook today, because it's one of the sizes that I don't have, which is a little bit annoying. This dress also is definitely not as intimidating as I think we all assume it to be. It looks like it's very complicated and it's going to be a lot of work, and it definitely is a lot of work, but that work actually isn't super difficult. So I think the actual knitting parts go quite fast. Everything's broken into its own section, like the lower bodice, the upper bodice, the straps, high hip to hip to hem. So it always feels like, okay, you just need to knit a few more rows to finish off a section, and that feels very satisfying. You're not just knitting the same thing over and over until you really get to the skirt part. But it just is like a big, I would say, time commitment for you. But if it's a dress that you really want, know that it is more approachable than you're expecting. The pattern really guides you, it holds your hand. I know the new version coming is probably going to be even better. So yeah, between the MELIDES calculator and the Excel sheet, the very clear instructions of the pattern, and the fact that like Ines from VertKnit also is just really helpful in general and will answer questions, I think you can feel supported if you work on this pattern. And I do hope that, you know, more and more people will make it, because it's beautiful and it's great to support smaller designers. I also think, you know, a lot of people have said that this is a dress that they are very interested in making. So hopefully I have somehow inspired you and encouraged you to now take this project on, or a dress in general. So also that's a video that I recently posted, which is my favorite patterns for spring and summer dresses and skirts. And there's lots of options in there that maybe are a little bit more approachable for you, like DK weight or shorter styles. I'm also not sure if I'm going to actually finish the vlog series for the dress, to be honest. I have been so busy knitting on it that I haven't really been filming the process that much, because I just haven't had time or energy to record. I've been doing a lot of knitting while literally like sitting in my pajamas in the morning before getting on with my day. So I may just kind of do a final wrap-up series for that vlog, but not the actual like making of process, because I have a period with a lot of videos, and then yeah, the last like couple weeks almost no videos at all. So apologies if you've been really invested in that. I did have every intention of finishing the vlog and doing it properly, but yeah, I can't do everything at one time, and I need to really just prioritize the knitting part of that. So if I ever do a vlog again, I will try to be better, but honestly, I don't know if vlogs are for me. It just seems like a lot of extra effort while I'm also knitting. So I think I prefer more of the podcast format to talk about my knits. So that is everything on the MELIDES dress. Obviously, you know, I think I've been talking for over 20 minutes now, and that was a very, very, very deep dive. I will keep you posted on if I finish it, and next time you see it will probably be videos from Sicily where I get to actually show it off finally. So then kind of the whole summary of the MELIDES dress really takes me into my next project I want to talk about, which is my finished object. And that is the Knit e-reader cozy by Leslie Forrester Howard, or also known as Knit California here on YouTube and also Instagram. And this is the one that I made for my Kobo. So I have a Kobo Libra 2. The nice thing about this pattern is it comes with a gauge calculator, so you can input your gauge with the yarn that you're using, the size of your specific e-reader, and then it will tell you exactly how many stitches you need to cast on and how many rows you need to knit. So this was really just like a complete palette cleanser for me. I really wanted a simple project I could cast on as a break from my dress without being too distracting, and something that I felt I could finish. Because also with my Kobo, I do have a little bit of a scratch on it from traveling with it. And so I also wanted to make sure that before taking it to Sicily, I had some sort of cover to protect it. So I think of actual knitting, this was maybe 8 hours, if that. I definitely got through it pretty quickly. I just worked on it here and there between dresses, usually late at night. It was my first time doing the Judy's Magic cast on, which was actually really simple. I always thought that that would be more complicated. It wasn't. And I knit this in my Drops Merino Extra Fine Gray from my Storm Sweater Junior, and the Cascade Heritage, I forget the color name, neon yellow basically, which I used for the Oslo hat for my friend over the holidays. So I just held the Cascade double, and then the Drops was already DK weight, which the pattern called for. This is a really great scrap buster project. I didn't take much yarn at all. I actually forgot to weigh the gray yarn before I started, but I only had, I think, less than a skein left, so definitely super simple. I did not gauge swatch for this, and I just sort of tried it on my Kobo as I went. It's a tiny bit wider, and then I ended up cutting off a few rows at the end, because I think I was supposed to have 5 more rows at the top here, but when I tried it on the Kobo, it actually fit. So my gauge is probably a little bit off here. So I opted to just stop after 2 stripes, not 3 as the pattern called for, and then just do the I-cord bind off. So I didn't want to bother with the folded over button snap closure, which the pattern also includes. I think it looks really nice, but I just needed something simple to do. And then I just did the I-cord bind off, threaded through an elastic, so it does taper in a little bit so that the sleeve will sit snugly over. It is still drying. I wet blocked it yesterday, so that's why I'm not putting it on my Kobo to show you. I think overall, really, really nice pattern from Leslie. Definitely something that I needed. I think it's a great gift knit if you know the e-reader size of whoever you're making it for, and it's a super great scrap buster project. I could see myself making a few more of these, and my husband's already requested one for him. So I think I'm actually going to use the kind of bluish yarn you see back there, which I originally bought for socks for him, but I don't really want to make socks, so I think I'm going to use that to make his e-reader. So that's my finished Kobo cover, and yeah, quick knit. Definitely not my best work. I think, yeah, I definitely did not do the smoothest kind of color changes, and I did not graft off my I-cord properly. I was a little bit lazy. I decided to just bind off and then sew it together. I expect I will make a new e-reader at some point and do it properly, probably also with the snap closure, but this is good enough for our trip and I'm happy with it. I really like the way that the gray and yellow work together. It really reminds me of like gym socks or something. So yeah, good palette cleanser, perfect one, and also just a nice quick knit. And then that was going to be the only projects that I talked about when I was planning for this podcast, but since I started to wet block my dress last night and I had nothing else easy to just work on, I decided to cast on a new project, and it might come as a surprise what it is. It is another MELIDES, but not the dress. So this is the MELIDES top, also by Goodknits. I am knitting it again in pure silk from Knitting for Olive, but in the dusty artichoke color. And I didn't make it super far. So I did the cast on, with the linen stitch, and then I've knit around 6 rows, I believe. I was reminded yesterday when I went to cast this on that this project also requires you to do some measurements, deal with your gauge to understand exactly what length, because it's bottom up. So therefore you need to know exactly how much length you need to knit before you start shaping the V-necks. So I did have to do a little bit of calculations yesterday, but thankfully I didn't have to gauge swatch for this because it's the exact same gauge as the MELIDES dress, and I already know that I need a 3.25 millimeter needle for that, so I ended up just using that and inputting the gauge that I got. So this I'm really excited to have because I tried to make the MELIDES top last year in the dark cognac color from Knitting for Olive Pure Silk, and it didn't go well. My gauge was way off. Even though I did gauge swatch, I don't know what happened. Maybe I stretched it too much, but I ended up being like 5 centimeters too short in the body. It was way too tight, and when I started to apply the I-cord, I just realized there's absolutely no way that I was ever gonna wear that top. So I put it aside, said, I'm just gonna frog this and let it be. But every time I see that top, and especially now after working on the dress and just seeing the dart stitches and the way that it fit, I really wanna then have that top in my wardrobe. So I bought new yarn, decided to recast it on. I'm going with a size 4, which fits final bust size of 88 centimeters. It's meant to have 0 negative ease or positive ease. So hopefully that fits a lot better this time, and I think it's going to be a fairly quick knit, especially because at least with this MELIDES, I can actually knit in the round and just factor in the dart stitches. So it's going to be pretty mindless for the first bit, and then from what I remember, splitting for the V-neck isn't that complicated. And now the I-cord on this top seems super doable because it's really, really small as compared to the dress. So where I found it intimidating last summer and a bit of a pain at the end, now I'm like, bring it on, I don't mind. Outside of that, I haven't touched a single other one of my projects, including the fancy Pepita skirt test knit I have and the Brady Loop cardigan from Other Loops. Those are just sitting in a basket. I will pick them up after Sicily. I don't think I'm going to make any progress on them anytime soon. And for both, I really, really want them, but I'm going to work on some simpler projects for now. Okay, final part of the video then is sort of my acquisitions and upcoming plans. So a lot of this is going to be yarn that I bought in Vilnius, which I have already shown in some capacity within the travel vlog. So if you're like, Kate, saw it, don't care, feel free to skip this part. But if it's brand new to you or you want to hear a little bit more about the plans and what I'm doing with them, then please go ahead and stick around for that. I'm going to start though with an acquisition that didn't come from Vilnius, and that is my new Chowgu mini needles, which so sweet. So Francesca from An Italian Knitter had posted, it's probably not her latest podcast now, it's probably like 1 or 2 podcasts ago, but she posted in a podcast that she had bought these shorties for herself and she really didn't like the knitting experience, so she was planning to just kind of give them away to a friend. And I reached out to her because when I was talking about knitting on short circumferences, like many podcasts ago, a lot of you had mentioned that shorties were really game-changing for you if I didn't like Magic Loop or DPNs, which I do not. So I was already planning to buy these, and I reached out to her and was like, hey, that's the exact needle set I was already thinking of getting for myself. So if you are looking to get rid of them, I'm happy to buy them from you. Just let me know the cost. And she was so sweet. She offered them to me for just the cost of shipping because she wanted them to go to a good home for somebody that would actually use them. So yeah, it's the entire set. It literally includes everything. So the cables, the little mini gauge calculator, and the stitch markers. So I'm really excited to use these. I haven't given them a go yet, but I actually think I'm going to put them on my Sunday socks that have been lingering for a long time and see how I like the knitting experience of those DK weight socks and make a judgment call from there. But I definitely think this is going to be my preferred method, but we'll see. I won't know until I try. So thank you so much, Francesca, because that was really sweet. And yeah, I wasn't expecting you to just offer this to me. And she also sent me 2 balls of new to me yarn. So these are a Stormy blend, Italian yarns and fibers, so local to her yarn. And it's 50 grams, 225 meters, 2-ply fingering weight, 70% Brogna wool and 30% alpaca. So really soft. I feel like this is going to be very warm. I have absolutely no idea yet what I'm going to make in these or make with these. But if you have any suggestions, please let me know. So I have roughly 450 meters total. And I'm thinking I can probably pair this with another color to maybe do striping of some kind on something. Sweet. So not only did she send me needles, she also sent me yarn and a lovely card. So amazing. I love how, knitters just help other knitters, and we all just want everybody to enjoy the process and have yarn that they love. So yes, thank you for that. Then we have the yarn that I bought at Sicily Plans in Vilnius, and the first yarn is the Lana Gatto VIP luxury yarn, and the color is 13737. I don't think there's an actual color name for this. No, there's not. But this is 80% Lana Merino, extra fine, and 20% cashmere, which I've never knit with cashmere before. And how much is it? 50 grams, 200 meters. So I've never felt this before. It's never been on my radar. And when I saw the color selection, but also just felt this, I was like, oh, I need that. Like, it's so beautiful. So originally I bought this with the intent of using it for my Popopo jacket by Iago Knit. So I got the Gepard yarn Kidsetta to pair with. And I'm gonna swatch for this and see how I like the color combo together. I am a tiny bit worried that this is just maybe a little bit too vibrant for that jacket and that it's gonna be difficult to wear. If that's the case, my backup plan is to knit the Lane Loop Tee by Other Loops because maybe this pairing will be a little bit nicer as a t-shirt. But I'm hoping when I swatch this up that this color will be the more dominant one and this will just complement it. But yeah, there wasn't a ton of great options for the mohair to pair, and I'm just not sure that these two are the absolute best combination for a jacket. But what do you guys think? I do really, really love this color. I think it's stunning. So that is the plan for that yarn. I've also never ever worked with the Kid Seta before from Gapard, and I felt basically every mohair in that store as I was going, and I think other than Knitting for Olive, this was the nicest feeling one. So really excited to work with it for the first time and see how I like it. Then also from the same store, I ended up getting the Sadness Garn Line in color 9062, which is this really kind of like grass green, more lime maybe. It's a bit more muted, and I'm gonna pair it with the color 1015, also Sadness Line. So these two together will be my Farnham Tee by the Knit Pearl Girl. So this will be my main color and these will be my stripes. And I plan to cast that on probably shortly after coming back from Sicily. And I'm excited because I already have that pattern. I got it for free from Sophie from helping read one of her latest patterns. And so that's just been sitting there ready for me to work on. So excited to have the yarn. I have worked with this before. I really like it, and I think it's going to be the perfect summer yarn. The last thing that I bought at Salasula's is yarn that Jurgita recommended to me, and it is Sun Yarn Studio Lithuanian linen, and I believe this is their local to them shop yarn. And this is 100% linen made in Lithuania. So she was saying that there isn't really like a lot of good quality wool that comes out of Lithuania, like probably not brands that you would want to buy for yourself, but they are really, really known for their linen. So it's definitely, can I pull out? It is like rougher, like 100% linen is not a very pleasant feeling experience on your hands, and she did warn that the knitting experience with it will probably be a little bit hard. But I plan to hold this double, and I didn't really have a project in mind when I bought it. I was like, I just really want to buy something that's local to the area that would not be something I can easily get here. And I really love this purple color. Yeah, I bought this with nothing in mind, and then I realized when I was going through my spring knitting plans, I think the Marigold Tee from Winter's Weather Knits will actually be perfect for that yarn. So where she has the really dark forest in her pattern photos, I think I will use the purple there. But what I'm not 100% sure about is what contrast color I should use. Do you think I should pair it with like more of this kind of cream sort of color, or do a really low contrast option where the other yarn is maybe a darker or slightly lighter purple so that you can't really tell the difference? Personally, I think I'm leaning towards a low contrast option. I'm not sure what other yarn I would buy as the contrast there, but I think that could be really interesting, so that it doesn't stand out so much. And I will be holding this double, by the way, because this is like very light fingering. I think it's actually lace. How much is it? 50 grams, 300 meters. So this is 100 grams, so 600 meters, and I got 3 of them. So I should have more than enough yarn for a t-shirt. Then the other yarn that I bought was from Happy Art, which is a yarn shop I wasn't planning to stop in, but it was right around the corner from Mezgamo Zona, which I didn't end up buying anything from, but they had an amazing selection and definitely are worth checking out if you go. But I came across the Katja concept yarn at Happy Art, or concept by Katja, sorry. And this is the Silky Lace Merino Extra Fine Silk Superwash in color 186. And it is 50 grams for 260 meters, and it's 80% Lana virgin wool, and 20% silk. So I'm not sure how this will actually hold up. I haven't heard like amazing things about this brand, but this feels really, really soft. And I think, yeah, the pairing of merino and silk is quite nice. So I was thinking of using this for the Italian spring shawlette by an Italian knitter, so Francesca. She has a free pattern, which I think could be just a really good mindless knit. It's garter stitch with an I-cord bind off, or an I-cord edge, and a few yarn overs every, I don't know how many rows. So I figured this should be enough to get me a full shawl. I bought 2 balls of it, and I really, really like this color. And I think it could transition nicely. It's maybe a bit heavier for spring, but Amsterdam's not super, super warm. So I think it could transition nicely between seasons here and also be used on vacation. So that was all the yarn that I bought. And then I'd also mentioned that Gintera from Ambertone Yarn gave me this hand-dyed mohair skein, which is hand-dyed by her. It's 72% kid mohair, 28% silk, single ply, 50 grams for 420 meters. And this is gorgeous. She has her own business. Please check out her Etsy shop because she definitely has some very, very gorgeous hand-dyed yarns. And it was so kind of her to gift this when we met for our knitting date. It was the first time meeting together, but we've talked quite a bit over Instagram. She also bought my Olivia and Oliver Fibers yarn advent from, I think, 2022 when I realized I wasn't going to use it for anything. So that's how her and I got in contact. And yeah. So I really need to find something special for this. I'm not really sure what I'm going to use with it yet. I'm thinking incorporating it into some sort of shawl would be nice. But if you have any ideas for how to use this, please let me know because I could really use some ideas. So in terms of Sicily, I am struggling a little bit with how to pack. I will only have a carry-on suitcase and probably some sort of tote bag. So I do need to keep my knitting to a minimum on this trip. But I am thinking, in addition to the MELIDES top, which I will continue, and that'll probably be the main thing I work on, I am planning to bring this, again, pure silk in the color putty, to do my next Cumulus tee. So I think I am really loving the Cumulus tee I already have. I want to make another in a more neutral color. So this should be pretty easy and mindless, even when doing the increases for the V-neck. So I think I will bring this because it's only a few balls and I could probably make pretty good progress on all the driving that we'll be doing. And potentially, if I swatch for this and I like it, I might bring these and cast on the Popopo jacket, but only if I like how the swatch looks. So I'm gonna see, this is tentative. If I do bring it, I'll probably only bring 1 ball and just see how far I get. But I also think, yes, it's 2 weeks of knitting. I probably don't need 3 projects, but knowing me, I'll want a few different things to work on. I also want to be very careful how many needles I bring, because with carry-ons, I'm never 100% sure how that will work and if my needles will get confiscated. So yeah, I don't want to like have to pack all my knitting accessories and needles. So yeah, for sure the 2 projects, the MELIDES and the Cumulus, maybe the Popopo jacket, or also if I swatch for that and I don't like it for that project, maybe I'll bring it for the Lane Loop tee. And I don't really plan to yarn shop there. Like, I think a couple stores in Palermo, but we only have a few hours there, and by the time we land and check into the hotel, those shops will probably be closed. So also because I have no storage to bring anything back, it just doesn't make sense to really yarn shop, and I don't think I need more yarn right now. I need to just focus on what I have and finish off those projects before jumping in and buying more and committing to more. I am super excited for my trip and to take you guys along and just share what I'm knitting on while I'm there amongst the beautiful scenery and car drives. So that brings me to the end of today's podcast. I would love to know in the comments what your guys' thoughts are on my plans for the linen and also what contrast color I should use, or if you have a different project in mind that you think would be perfect for that yarn. It's brand new to me. I'm really open to anything here, so please let me know your thoughts. And as always, please like this video. It really helps my channel grow, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on bell notifications so that you can be notified of all my new episodes. I'd really love for you to stick around, and thank you so much for being here. I will see you in the next episode.